I'll help you create a new HFY, humanity, yeah, story that captures the spirit of human resilience and determination. I'll first outline the 5 parts and then dive into the first part. Story part outlines. Part 1, The Awakening, Discovering the Threat. Introduction to humanity's first contact with an advanced alien civilization. Establishing the initial conflict and stakes. Introducing the main protagonist and their background. Part 2, Resistance and Adaptation. Humanity's initial struggles against the alien invasion. Development of innovative defense strategies. Personal growth of the main characters. Part 3, Turning the Tide. Breakthrough technologies and unexpected human advantages. Strategic counterattacks. Psychological warfare and diplomatic maneuvering. Part 4, The Great Transformation. Humanity's radical technological and social evolution. Unexpected alliances. Preparing for the final confrontation. Part 5, Redemption and Hope. The ultimate battle. Resolution of the conflict. Vision for humanity's future among the stars. Now, I'll create Part 1 with the outline themes. Part 1, The Awakening, Discovering the Threat. The first transmission came on a quiet Tuesday afternoon in Geneva. Dr. Kai Rodriguez, lead researcher at the Global Astronomical Monitoring Center, initially thought it was another random signal noise. But something was different this time. The spectral analysis was unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. Complex mathematical patterns woven into electromagnetic waves, carrying a precision that defied natural origins. As Kai and his team worked feverishly to decode the message, a chilling realization began to take shape: this was no natural phenomenon. This was communication from an intelligent, non-human source. Headquarters buzzed with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. The United Nations Emergency Council was convened within hours, bringing together the world's top scientists, military strategists, and political leaders. The message, once partially decoded, painted a stark picture of impending invasion. The Krelthar Collective, as they called themselves, were a hyper-advanced civilization that had been observing Earth for decades. Their transmission was both a warning and a declaration: humanity had 2 planetary cycles, approximately 18 Earth months, to prepare for integration or face complete subjugation. Integration, in their clinical language, meant complete surrender of planetary sovereignty. The Krelthar would assume control of all resources, technological infrastructure, and effectively transform human society into a subordinate workforce for their galactic expansion. Kai Rodriguez found himself at the center of humanity's response. His background in quantum physics, xenolinguistics, and computational biology made him uniquely qualified to understand the alien communication. More importantly, he possessed an unwavering belief in human potential. "They see us as primitive," Kai told the UN Council, his voice steady but passionate. "But they don't understand human adaptability, our capacity for innovation, and our unbreakable spirit of survival." The military brass was skeptical. How could humanity, with its current technological limitations, stand against a civilization capable of interstellar communication and advanced quantum manipulation? Colonel Miranda Reyes, head of the newly formed Extraterrestrial Defense Command, shared Kai's determination. "We might not have their technology today," she argued, "but give us a challenge, and we'll evolve faster than they can predict." Preparations began immediately. Global resources were redirected. Research institutions that once competed now collaborated. Universities transformed into training grounds for a new kind of warfare, one that would require not just physical strength, but intellectual and strategic brilliance. Kai's team developed the first breakthrough. By analyzing the quantum signature of the Krelthar transmission, they discovered subtle vulnerabilities in their communication matrix. It wasn't a weapon, not yet, but it was a start. A way to understand their technological framework. Meanwhile, around the world, people responded with a mix of fear and defiance. Social media erupted with hashtags like #HumanityStands and #WeWillNotSurrender. The invasion had not yet begun, but humanity was already mounting a psychological resistance. The Krelthar had miscalculated one fundamental aspect of human nature, our ability to unite in the face of an external threat. Differences of nationality, race, religion, and ideology began to blur. A global identity was emerging, one defined by a collective determination to preserve human autonomy. As the first planetary cycle drew to a close, humanity was no longer the same species the Krelthar had initially assessed. Research centers worked around the clock. Military strategists developed unconventional warfare tactics. Ordinary citizens became part of a global network of resistance. Kai Rodriguez looked out the window of the monitoring center, watching the sunset over Geneva. The sky seemed different now, no longer just a canvas of stars, but a battleground waiting to be contested. The Krelthar thought they were sending a warning. Instead, they had lit the spark of humanity's greatest transformation. The countdown to the final confrontation had begun. Resistance and adaptation. The Krelthar's first physical incursion caught humanity off guard, but not unprepared. Their massive quantum phase ships appeared simultaneously over 5 major cities: Beijing, New York, Mumbai, Lagos, and São Paulo. Translucent and shimmering, the vessels seemed to phase in and out of conventional reality, a stark demonstration of their technological superiority. Initial attacks were precise and calculated. Electromagnetic pulses disabled critical infrastructure. Communication networks collapsed. Power grids went dark. To the Krelthar, it was a surgical strike meant to demonstrate the futility of human resistance. They were wrong. In the command center beneath the Andes Mountains, Kai Rodriguez and Colonel Miranda Reyes had anticipated such a scenario. The global defense network they developed was not dependent on traditional communication infrastructure. Decentralized, quantum encrypted, and continuously adapting, it was humanity's first line of defense. They attacked our technology, Kai muttered, his fingers flying across holographic interfaces, but they forgot we're more than our machines. Within hours of the initial assault, grassroots resistance networks emerged. Communities that had been marginalized, countries once considered technologically underdeveloped, became the most innovative battlegrounds. In the slums of Mumbai, engineers cobbled together makeshift electromagnetic disruptors. African tech collectives developed guerrilla communication networks that the Krelthar couldn't trace. The aliens had expected a centralized resistance. Instead, they faced a hydra, cut off one communication line, and 3 more would emerge. Colonel Reyes coordinated a global counterintelligence operation. Every captured Krelthar communication, every fragment of their technology became a learning opportunity. Human scientists worked in shifts, dissecting alien tech, understanding their quantum communication principles, and developing countermeasures. Dr. Yuki Nakamura, a brilliant quantum physicist from Tokyo, made a groundbreaking discovery. The Krelthar's quantum phasing technology relied on a specific harmonic resonance. By creating inverse wave patterns, humans could temporarily disrupt their advanced stealth capabilities. It's like finding the exact musical note that shatters glass, Yuki explained during an emergency global broadcast. Except in this case, we're shattering their technological invisibility. The first major human victory came unexpectedly. In the mountains of Peru, a local indigenous community used traditional knowledge combined with improvised technology to disable a Krelthar reconnaissance unit. Their methods defied all conventional military strategies, a blend of ancient tracking techniques and jury-rigged quantum disruptors. Kai was fascinated. They're adapting faster than our most advanced research teams, he told Miranda. Humanity isn't just fighting. We're evolving. The Krelthar began to realize they had gravely underestimated their human targets. Each attack was met with increasingly sophisticated resistance. Where other species might have broken, humans became more unified, more innovative. Social structures transformed. Universities became rapid innovation centers. Every citizen was potentially a resistance member. Children learned quantum mechanics alongside traditional subjects. The entire human civilization was recalibrating itself as a collective defense mechanism. Psychological warfare became a critical component. Human propagandists understood something the Krelthar didn't: the power of narrative. Every small victory was broadcast globally, not just as a military achievement, but as a testament to human spirit. "We are not just fighting," became a global slogan, "we are proving our right to exist." The Krelthar had expected submission. Instead, they faced a species that turned every defeat into an opportunity for innovation, every setback into a chance for growth. As the second planetary cycle approached, the balance of power was shifting. Humanity was no longer just resisting, they were preparing to fight back. The real war was just beginning. Turning the tide. The Krelthar's strategic command had never encountered a species like humans. Their computational models, which had predicted swift capitulation, were now completely obsolete. Where other civilizations would have fragmented, humans had become a unified, adaptive organism. Dr. Kai Rodriguez and Colonel Miranda Reyes led the charge from the Global Resistance Headquarters, a mobile command center hidden deep within the Himalayan mountain range. Their latest intelligence suggested the Krelthar were preparing a massive coordinated assault, what they believed would be the final strike to break human resistance. But humanity had other plans. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A team of young researchers in a makeshift lab in Cape Town had been studying the quantum communication patterns of the Krelthar. Led by Zara Okonkwo, a 28-year-old quantum communications expert, they discovered a critical vulnerability in the aliens' neural network. "It's not just a technological weakness," Zara explained during an encrypted global briefing. "It's a fundamental flaw in their collective consciousness. The Krelthar operate as a hive mind, but that means they're vulnerable to targeted psychological disruption." The plan was audacious. Rather than a direct military confrontation, humanity would wage a war of information and psychological manipulation. They would exploit the Krelthar's greatest strength, their interconnected intelligence, and turn it into their ultimate weakness. Specialized teams began developing quantum-encrypted viruses designed not to destroy the Krelthar's technology, but to introduce paradoxical information that would create internal conflict within their collective consciousness. Meanwhile, global manufacturing had been completely transformed. Every industrial capacity was now focused on resistance. 3D printing facilities produced advanced weaponry. Nanotechnology labs developed adaptive armor and quantum disruption devices. The entire human civilization had become a single, massive war machine. The Krelthar's next assault came as expected. Massive quantum phase ships descended from the upper atmosphere, their weapons charged and ready to deliver what they believed would be the final blow to human resistance. But this time, humanity was prepared. As the alien ships approached, a coordinated global response was launched. Quantum disruption fields created by research teams in Brazil, Japan, and Kenya simultaneously activated. The Krelthar's advanced cloaking technology began to falter. Zara's team unleashed their psychological warfare algorithm. Carefully crafted information packets began to penetrate the Krelthar's collective consciousness. Complex mathematical sequences designed to create cognitive dissonance spread through their neural network like a virus. The effect was immediate and devastating. The Krelthar ships began to destabilize. Their perfect coordination fractured. Some ships turned on each other, while others simply hung motionless in the sky, their crews locked in internal conflict. Kai watched the monitors, his heart racing. "We're not just fighting them," he muttered to Miranda. "We're challenging their entire understanding of intelligence and consciousness." Colonel Reyes allowed herself a rare smile. Humanity's greatest weapon has always been our ability to think differently. The battle was far from over, but for the first time, the Krelthar were on the defensive. Humanity had proven that technological superiority meant nothing without adaptability, creativity, and the ability to evolve. As the quantum disruption fields continued to destabilize the alien fleet, one thing became clear: this was no longer just a war for survival. This was a war that would reshape the understanding of intelligence in the entire galaxy. The tide had turned. And humanity was just getting started.
The enemy strikes back. The respite the Resistance had hoped for was short-lived. Just 2 days after Lyra's arrival at Varen Station, the tranquility of their hidden haven shattered with the ominous arrival of a Dominion dreadnought. The massive ship emerged from hyperspace, its dark silhouette blotting out the stars, a harbinger of destruction. Squadrons of Dominion fighters poured forth, their weapons blazing as they targeted the station's defenses. Elias! Rhea shouted over the chaotic din of alarms blaring throughout the station. We need to mobilize our forces now. Elias Kane stood resolute, his jaw set with determination. All hands to battle stations, he commanded, his voice echoing through the comms. Hold the line. We cannot let them breach our defenses. Lyra felt a surge of adrenaline coursing through her as she joined Elias and Rhea in preparing for battle. Although her energy was still recovering from her time in captivity, she could feel the flickers of strength returning to her crystalline form. The memories of her imprisonment fueled her resolve. She would not allow the Dominion to take this sanctuary from those who had fought so hard for freedom. As the first wave of Dominion fighters descended upon them, Lyra instinctively reached for a plasma rifle, its weight comforting in her hands. She had never wielded such weapons before, but her instincts kicked in as she took her place alongside Elias and Rhea. Focus on the incoming fighters. Elias shouted, his rifle firing with precision as he took down one enemy after another. We need to protect the station's power core at all costs. Lyra nodded, her heart racing as she aimed at an approaching fighter. Her fingers tightened around the trigger, and with a burst of energy, she fired. The shot struck true, sending the fighter spiraling away in flames. A sense of exhilaration surged through her. This was what she had longed for, a chance to fight back against those who had wronged her people. However, as more fighters swarmed in, it became clear that the battle was turning grim. The dreadnought's main cannons charged ominously above them, energy spikes crackling with lethal intent. The station's shields flickered under the strain, struggling to hold against the relentless assault. Elias! Rhea shouted as she scanned their defenses. We can't hold much longer. We need to evacuate. No. Elias replied fiercely, his eyes narrowing as he assessed their options. We can't abandon this place. We have to find a way to fight back. Lyra stepped forward, her heart pounding with urgency. There's another way, she declared, drawing their attention. Elias turned to her, his brow furrowed in concern. What do you mean? My people developed technology that harnesses energy on a massive scale, Lyra explained quickly. If I can access the station's power core and amplify its output, I can turn it into a weapon powerful enough to take down that dreadnought. Rhea looked skeptical but intrigued. That sounds like a suicide mission. It is, Lyra admitted, determination flaring in her violet eyes. But if it saves these people, if it stops them from being slaughtered, it's worth it. Elias placed a steadying hand on her shoulder. You're not doing this alone, he assured her firmly. I'll go with you. With no time to waste, they descended into the depths of Varen Station toward the power core, a sprawling chamber filled with humming machinery and crackling energy conduits. The air was thick with tension as they navigated through dimly lit corridors lined with flickering lights. As they approached the core chamber, they encountered fierce resistance. Dominion troops had already breached lower levels of the station and were moving toward them with ruthless efficiency. Cover me! Elias shouted as he pushed forward into the fray, his rifle firing rapidly at advancing enemies while Lyra followed closely behind. With every shot fired and every enemy taken down, Lyra felt her strength returning more fully. she could feel the energy pulsing within her crystalline body as if responding to her resolve and purpose. Together, they fought fiercely through waves of Dominion soldiers until they finally reached the power core chamber. Inside was a breathtaking sight, an immense sphere pulsating with energy at its center surrounded by intricate machinery humming with life. But there was no time for awe, they needed to act quickly. Lyra. Elias called urgently as he covered their flanks against incoming fire from Dominion troops still pursuing them into the chamber. Lyra moved swiftly to interface with the core's control panel, her crystalline fingers glowed brightly as she connected with its systems. The process was draining, she could feel herself drawing upon every ounce of energy she had, but there was no turning back now. As she worked frantically to amplify the core's output, Elias continued to fend off enemies pouring into the chamber from all sides. Explosions rocked the room as blasts from Dominion weapons struck nearby walls and equipment. Almost there. Lyra shouted breathlessly as she focused on channeling energy into a concentrated beam. Above them, the dreadnought's cannons fired again, beams of destructive energy rained down upon Varen Station's shields, causing them to flicker dangerously close to failure. Lyra. We're out of time. Elias yelled desperately. With one final surge of effort and determination coursing through her veins, Lyra unleashed the core's amplified energy directly toward the dreadnought, a blinding beam of light erupted from Varen Station's power core. The beam pierced through space like a spear aimed at its target, striking true against the dreadnought's hull and detonating its power core in a spectacular explosion that lit up the void around them. The shockwave from the blast sent ripples through space and scattered remaining Dominion forces like leaves caught in a storm. Cheers erupted throughout Varen Station as its inhabitants witnessed their victory against overwhelming odds. But amidst the celebration and relief flooding through them all, Lyra collapsed onto one knee, her energy spent from channeling such immense power, and gasped for breath. Elias rushed to her side immediately, concern etched across his features as he knelt beside her. Lyra. Are you all right? She looked up at him through heavy-lidded eyes filled with exhaustion but also triumph. We did it, she whispered weakly. Yes, Elias replied softly but firmly. And now we have a chance to fight back together. As cheers echoed around them amidst debris and remnants of battle, their victory marked not just survival but also hope for what lay ahead. Lyra realized that this was only just beginning. Together they would forge a new path against tyranny that had long oppressed their worlds. The final stand. The station erupted in cheers as the Dominion forces retreated, their assault thwarted by the sheer force of Lyra's amplified energy blast. But amidst the jubilation, Lyra Vosk collapsed to her knees, her crystalline body dimming as the last vestiges of energy drained from her. Elias rushed to her side, his expression a mixture of concern and admiration. Lyra. Are you all right? He asked, kneeling beside her as the cheers of victory echoed around them. She looked up at him, breathless but triumphant. We did it, she whispered, a faint smile breaking through her exhaustion. We actually did it. Elias helped her to her feet, supporting her as she regained her balance. You were incredible, he said, his voice filled with pride. You saved us all. As the cheers continued to ring in their ears, Lyra felt a sense of belonging she hadn't experienced in years. The resistance fighters were celebrating not just a victory over the Dominion but also the resurgence of hope, a hope that had been extinguished for far too long. However, their victory was bittersweet. The reality of what they had faced, and what lay ahead, loomed heavily over them. The Dominion would not take this defeat lightly. They would regroup and retaliate with greater force. Elias, Rhea interjected, her voice serious as she approached them. We need to prepare for counterattacks. This was just one battle in a much larger war. Elias nodded, his expression shifting from elation to determination. You're right. We need to fortify our defenses and gather intelligence on their next moves. Lyra straightened, feeling the weight of responsibility settle upon her shoulders. What can I do? She asked, her eyes gleaming with renewed vigor. You've already proven yourself, Rhea replied, a hint of respect in her tone. But we need you to help us understand the Dominion's tactics and technology. Your knowledge could be invaluable. Lyra felt a surge of purpose swell within her. I will do whatever it takes, she promised firmly. I won't let my people's sacrifice be in vain. As they began strategizing their next steps, Lyra found herself immersed in discussions about defense protocols and offensive strategies. She shared insights into the Dominion's weaknesses, information that had been passed down through generations of Alari warriors who had fought against oppression. Days turned into weeks as Varen Station transformed into a hub of resistance activity. Fighters trained tirelessly, honing their skills for the battles ahead while engineers worked around the clock to strengthen defenses and develop new technologies based on Lyra's knowledge. Despite the looming threat of retaliation from the Dominion, there was an undeniable sense of camaraderie among the resistance fighters, a bond forged through shared struggles and victories that transcended species and backgrounds. One evening, as Lyra stood on the observation deck gazing out at the stars, Elias joined her. The asteroid field shimmered like diamonds against the backdrop of space, a stark contrast to the darkness they had fought against. Thinking about home, he asked softly. Lyra sighed, her gaze distant. Sometimes I wonder if there's anything left of it, she admitted. The Dominion destroyed so much, my people, our way of life. Elias leaned against the railing beside her, his expression thoughtful. But you're here now, he said gently. You have a chance to rebuild, to fight for something greater than yourself. She turned to him, gratitude filling her heart. Thank you for believing in me, she said sincerely. I believe in all of us, Elias replied with a warm smile. Together we can make a difference. As time passed, whispers began circulating among the resistance about an upcoming offensive, a coordinated strike against key Dominion installations designed to cripple their operations once and for all. The stakes were higher than ever. If successful, it could turn the tide of war in favor of those who sought freedom. Lyra felt a mix of excitement and trepidation as preparations intensified for this monumental mission. She trained alongside Elias and Rhea, pushing herself beyond her limits as they prepared for what lay ahead. Finally, the day arrived when they would launch their offensive against the Dominion stronghold on Karath Station, a heavily fortified facility known for housing critical resources and personnel essential to the enemy's war efforts. As they gathered in the command center before departure, Elias addressed his team with unwavering resolve. This is our moment. We've trained hard for this day, now it's time to show them what we're made of. Cheers erupted around him as fighters rallied behind his words, determined faces reflecting both fear and determination mingled together. Lyra stood among them feeling a sense of belonging that resonated deep within her soul. This was not just about revenge or survival anymore, it was about reclaiming their future. As they boarded their ships and launched into space, adrenaline coursed through Lyra's veins like fire, igniting every fiber of her being with purpose. She was no longer just a prisoner, she was a warrior fighting for freedom alongside allies who shared her vision. The battle against Karath Station was fierce. Explosions lit up space as ships engaged in combat while ground forces stormed through enemy lines on foot, each moment filled with chaos yet also clarity as they fought side by side toward victory. Lyra felt alive as she maneuvered through enemy fire alongside Elias, her powers surging with each blast fired from her plasma rifle. She struck down enemies with precision while channeling energy from within herself to bolster allies around her. In that moment, the culmination of all their struggles and sacrifices, Lyra realized that hope had indeed returned. It burned brightly within each fighter who dared stand against oppression, united under one banner, freedom. As they breached Karath Station's defenses and fought their way toward its core, a final showdown awaited them against General Vlok himself, the very embodiment of tyranny who had orchestrated so much suffering across galaxies. Prepare yourselves. Elias shouted over comms as they approached Vlok's command center, the heart of Dominion operations on Karath Station where darkness reigned supreme but light flickered just beyond reach. With courage swelling within them all, they charged forward together ready to confront not only their enemy but also destiny itself. their final stand would determine not just their fate but also that of countless souls yearning for liberation from chains forged by tyranny. In an epic clash filled with blinding lights and deafening sounds, the battle raged fiercely until finally amidst chaos emerged victory. General Vlok fell before them defeated, his reign ended at last. As silence settled over Kareth Station following its liberation, a new dawn broke across galaxies where once despair reigned supreme. Now hope flourished anew. Together they had forged something powerful, a legacy built upon unity, resilience, courage. Standing alongside Elias beneath starlit skies above liberated worlds, Lyra knew this was just beginning. Together they would continue fighting not only for themselves but also for those who couldn't fight anymore, for every soul lost along the way would never be forgotten. And so began an era defined by strength forged through adversity, where chains were broken forevermore, an enduring testament that when all hope seemed lost, a human warrior came forth alongside an Alari champion, to break those chains once and for all.